What's up, everyone? Mike here, hanging out on the mushroom farm. I've got a great video for you guys today. So I'm in my incubation area on the farm, and we're basically going to talk about kind of what incubation or what the colonization phase is, what it's all about, what we're trying to achieve, the parameters that we need to stay within when we're in this phase to make sure that we get through it properly, and then we can get into our grow rooms with the mushrooms and just achieve the fruiting of the mushrooms. So that's what I'm basically going to talk to you guys about during this video. I want to say, those of you who don't know, I'm a gourmet mushroom farmer. I've got many years of experience. If you want to check out my website or my Instagram or whatever, that'll be down in the description box below, so you can check it out and see some of my grows and whatnot. But today, we're going to talk about incubation. This is a brand new farm too, so I just built the farm here. This is actually the first run of blocks that I've actually ran through the farm, so it was like kind of a test. We were testing our steam system, we were testing our lab, our flow hood. I built the flow hood too, everything in the lab I've put together. So we were just making sure we had a successful run going through the whole operation and doing a full load, you know? So anyway, first full load, let me just give you an update before we talk about that. It was 100% successful, okay?
Great success!
So I'll talk more about sterilization in other videos and kind of how I'm doing it here. I don't want to get too off topic. But I want to say there were several things we had to battle environmentally. You know, it was middle of winter, so I was steaming these blocks outside, 0-degree weather, and we're at elevation, so our water boils at 200 degrees here instead of 212, you know, at sea level. So we had a couple things we were battling, but we have zero contamination, okay? So all of the blocks here, they're colonizing beautifully. I'll grab you some of them just so you guys can check it out. This one, what do we have here? We got a lion's mane, okay? So this is my lion's mane. This is my Yeti strain, Hericium erinaceus. I inoculated this one about 2 weeks ago. We'll talk about the time frame and stuff in this video, but zero contamination on this block. Looks absolutely great. I've also got like some king oysters, so check it out. King oysters, looking good, okay? So everything in here colonized beautifully. So anyway, let's talk about how I've got this kind of room set up. What are the parameters that we need to stay within as far as like environmental conditions in this room and just what we're trying to really achieve. So anyway, the incubation phase is the phase after you inoculate your bulk substrate. That is where the block is just chilling, it's incubating. The vegetative growth of the mycelium is occurring over the bulk substrate, and the mycelium is just digesting that bulk substrate. It's colonizing it. It's trying to fully kind of encase it so that it can break it down further, get some more nutrition out of it, and then end up fruiting, okay? So the incubation, that is the incubation phase in a nutshell. It is basically the vegetative growth cycle of our mushrooms, okay, or of the mycelium, you know, kind of however you want to describe it. So let's get into like the temperature range that I stick within here for these mushrooms. I want to say certain mushrooms do better on different temperatures and all sorts of stuff like that, but there's a general level I like to stick within pretty much for everything. And there's like safety parameters, the way I like to look at it. One thing, I have a little thermometer here, like a little, this is like one of those really cheap ones you can just get at Walmart or whatever. So it's got like, you can see it says 62 for minimum and maximum. I'll tell you, I have way more fluctuations in this room right now currently, okay? And we're still achieving like great results. So fluctuations don't matter a whole heck of a lot. I will say 62 degrees, it's a pretty good temp. It's a little on the lower end, but not bad, okay? So let's talk about this a little bit. First, let's talk about like the temperature of the incubation room, and because that's where problems can occur. If your temperature gets out of whack in your incubation room, you can get contamination of all sorts. For number one, like if your temperature gets too high, that is the main thing we really need to watch out for. Definitely be aware if it gets too low, because that slows things down. But if it gets too high, that can straight up just trash your whole crop, okay? So don't let your temperature get too high in the incubation area. That's why I kind of always have temperature gauges or thermometers. I got them around everywhere. I've been doing it long enough that I kind of know by feel, honestly. If I walk into a room and I just feel the temperature, I can kind of tell right away if it's going to be good or bad or whatever. And even in like grow rooms, I have like the mushroom sense nowadays that I can just like walk in these rooms and I immediately know if it's good or not, you know, just from feel. So temperature, what levels are we looking for? Personally, I like to see like 60 to 70 degrees on average, like room temperature, even like 72, stuff like that. It's cool. It'll kind of speed things up a little bit. The cooler you are, okay, the less chance of contamination you have as far as incubation is concerned. I don't like to dip under 60 degrees because it goes a little slow if you get under 60 degrees. I will just say, me here in the Rocky Mountains in the middle of the winter, I've had it drop, and I don't have that much heating going on in this building yet. I have some radiant heat in here that I haven't finished connecting it all, but I will get it connected for next winter. I got a wood stove too, but I actually didn't even use it because just doing a couple things in here that I still want to do construction wise, and I didn't want a whole lot of smoke and just smells like that getting in certain things with lab and all that good stuff just yet. But I do have a wood stove in here to utilize, but didn't use any of it. I was using very minimal heating. I just had a couple space heaters around, and we were able to hold that 60 degree temp pretty much no problem. Sometimes I'd wake up real early in the morning and it would be like under 60, but I'll always give this a little walkthrough. I walk through here, that's like my back door right there. And you can see I've got like grains and substrate stuff and stuff like in the back, but my steamer is out back, everything like that. The lab and everything is in the front, all right? And basically what I'll do is my blocks get steamed, I carry them through the incubation room, inoculate them in the lab, and then I just bring them right back in here. So I'm constantly, though, like, just because this is like a walkway for me, I'm going through this like many times throughout the day, and I'm always kind of checking my blocks. I'm always looking at the blocks and observing them, and I'm always kind of like checking the temperature, making sure we're within range, right? Now, what is a high range? Because I'm kind of talking about lows and highs and all that stuff. If I see 75, okay, that is the danger zone. If we exceed 75 degrees, that's when I'm kind of like, oh boy, we could lose it all, you know, or we could see like massive contamination set in. Like if it's 80 or something, I'm pretty much sure everything's done. Yeah, for an extended period of time. Like, do not let this room get over 75. Okay, I'll just make sure. Tell yourself, if you're doing some incubation yourself, have like I have an AC unit. I have a little mini split set up here. I also have a geothermal pipe I've put in. I put in 2 of them here at the farm, so even if my AC would shut down, okay, I could still run that geothermal. Another cool thing, the way I have this kind of set up, you wouldn't be able to apply this on all farms, but I'll just say, so I have a grow room. You can kind of see it, right? You can see my windows. I have viewing windows in my grow room here. There's a grow room right here on this side, and there's a grow room over there on the other side, okay? Now, being at elevation, a benefit in the summertime is you don't get these high temps that I would get down like when I was in St. Louis, Illinois. In the Midwest, you get them 100-degree days. We don't get that here. So the hottest it gets here is like 85 to 90. And honestly, when you have that outside air coming in, grow rooms right here, these get humidified. The water cools the air quite a bit here, just because we're low humidity air here in the mountains. So these rooms are honestly, in the summertime, they're going to be like a buffer for this area just to keep it cool, also a little bit safer. And like I said, you can't apply that in all situations, but just doing what you can to kind of mitigate that temperature, making sure we don't exceed 75 degrees is very important. Now, another thing, just talking about temperature, how they can mess things up, notice how I kind of have them on these wire rack shelves. Now, I do that for a myriad of reasons, okay? So I've used those plastic shelves that I'm sure many of you guys probably have them or you've seen them. You know, you can just get them at the hardware store. But the plastic shelves, they're harder to clean, first of all. They have more, like, crevices, stuff can get in. And they have, like, flat parts, okay, that these blocks will just sit on. And now these wire racks, it's got, like, wire that it sits on. So the wire will allow these blocks to even dissipate more heat, okay? And I know you might be thinking I'm going to be splitting hairs, but it does make a difference. I'll just say I've done enough of these, because like if you're only doing a few blocks, you know, or a couple tubs or something like that, you won't see it. And like a tub won't really affect that much. It's more so a bag, but I will say you won't see it when you're only doing a small amount, but when you're doing hundreds of them, that's when you see these type of things, okay? And that's also, like, these bags put off heat, okay? They put off like X amount of BTUs. So the more of them you get in here, the more likely it is to get hotter in here. They retain thermal mass. Dude, it's like interesting. You have to just constantly just maintain a balance with this. But I'll just say these wire racks are just another way you can help kind of let that heat dissipate and get away from the blocks. Also, these blocks, they are not touching each other, okay? They look very close, but I've got a real small gap between every one of them. So make sure you check that you can just, there's a little gap. You got to have them, a little gap in between each one. Because what you'll notice, because they put off heat, if they're touching, that will make like a hot spot where they're touching right there. And then that could like spread and lead to further contamination just throughout the block. So I want to say when we're talking about temperature and stuff like that, I actually have a little bit of space in here, and that's related to everything. I was talking about how that relates with the wire racks, letting the heat to dissipate a little more. Same kind of thing we're trying to achieve here, and that's why I leave a gap in between all these bags. Whenever you're thinking about your shelving too, some people make their shelving for incubation. I just liked buying these. I had a bunch of these racks from my previous farms in St. Louis and Illinois and Missouri and all that good stuff, so I just brought them with me. But I'll just say, you can make them yourself, you can do whatever. Just make sure you're always thinking about like letting the heat dissipate. Think about the space you're using. I actually thought about building shelves all the way up to the ceiling. I could probably fit like another row of blocks in general if I did that. But the cool thing is when you have these shelves, you can move them too. Like if you build something in here, you may not necessarily be able to move it so easily. So there's so many things to take into consideration here. So just do what works best for you, really. I will just say that temperature is a big one. Okay, so talk about temperature. Let's move on to lighting, okay? That's another like debated topic. And you might be able to tell like the sun is actually shining in here right now. Some people would tell you not to do that. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't freaking matter, okay? Like, it matters to a point, and I'll talk to you guys about that a little bit. But, lighting in here, okay? Lighting obviously will trigger pin formation, okay? It can also speed up the growth of the mycelium, though. However, too much can hurt it, okay? So, what you got to do with this is you got to find a balance point, just kind of like everything else in this. Find homeostasis, man. Like, don't get too much light. I would say you could go complete darkness in a room like this, but it's not necessary. I remember my first year growing, I was super concerned with that. I was really concerned. I was concerned, like, how much top growth are we getting in the bags and all this stuff. And I'll just tell you, that doesn't really even matter that much either, okay? Because you're only gonna get so much out of your grow room anyway, like even when you pack it full, because everything just kind of reaches this point of homeostasis, even when it comes to airflow and all that stuff. So I don't know. Everything kind of like finds its own little balance point throughout your system. The lighting, though, let's kind of cover this. I have 0 lights in this room, but I do have lights in my grow room that kind of like shine into here. I have lights in this little front room that'll allow some light in here, and even like I have windows in this front room that allows light in. Now, I would not let direct sunlight just beam down on these things, okay? That's not wise, okay? Just to let everyone know too, I'm shooting this video kind of like mid-morning. I have mountains to the east here. The sun comes up over the mountains. It doesn't clear the mountains until, I don't know, it depends on the time of year. It might be like 7 a.m. to even like, it doesn't clear the mountains until like, I'd say like 9, 10 a.m. or whatever. It starts warming up and the sun clears. So it doesn't really shine in here that much, okay? And then and my building has no windows on this side that allow like light from the sun in. So there's no, as the sun is kind of like going across the southern horizon, going from the east to the west, there's no sunlight beaming in hardcore in here. And I don't have any windows in my back. I'll say that when you get that afternoon sun, that's always like kind of like the hottest sun, like when I've been in Missouri, in Illinois, or stuff like that. If you would have afternoon sun beaming in, that's what will hurt you, okay? Like when you're getting like some super high temp, I feel like that's like when it's the most intense. That's when you really need to watch it. Just a little bit of morning sun, because I just get a few hours of it shining in. It doesn't do anything. And like, this is the king oyster block. I'll show you. This is the one This is the one that actually has gotten full, like it's gotten the most sunlight out of all of them, okay? We're just fully colonized. They didn't do anything. So don't worry about that. So don't really worry about it hardcore. You can have some sunlight, but don't have anything super hardcore beaming on it is kind of what I'm getting at there. Find your balance point there. Now, some mushrooms, they might be more likely to pin, okay, if you have lights in here. Lion's mane, in particularly, it may be more likely to pin. I want to say a few things about this, though. There's a lot of mushrooms I do grow that I want to see some top growth in these bags before I put them in the grow room, okay? So, like, king oyster, black pearl king, I want those mushrooms to start emerging coming out of the tops of here before I put them in the grow room. Same thing, I don't really grow chestnut anymore, but I treat chestnut the exact same way, okay? So the light can help in a situation like that, all right? So there's like certain mushrooms, some people, like I said with lion's mane, it might increase the pinning and they may not like it, but there's other mushrooms where king oyster, like Pleurotus syringae, black pearl king, maitake, anything when you're trying to get a little in vitro growth in the bag, it could help, you know? So I would say you don't want to make it completely dark. Really, it's going to depend on your situation, but that's why I have a little bit of light coming into my rooms. Talking about, kind of relating to lighting a little bit, I was talking about like how it can benefit some things. Some things with lion's mane, it might make it just pin a little bit more. There are strains of lion's mane that isn't really that affected too, I'll say. So keep that in mind. Some of it, that pinning that you might see on certain species or certain strains, might just be dependent to that strain. Another thing I want to talk about in here is just the humidity of the room in general, or your incubation phase humidity. So these bags right now, there's water droplets in them, so they're like almost 100% humidity in the bag. A lot of times when you read what your humidity needs to be for incubation, they're talking about like in the bag, okay, that substrate itself, but like the rest of this, okay, you know, it's protected from this environment. So I'll just say it doesn't matter really what your humidity is here in your incubation area. I just have it here in Colorado, we're kind of lower, like 30% relative humidity in this room, and everything is fine. I'll say back when I was in Illinois, if I was growing anywhere in Illinois, it might be somewhere from like 50% to like 60% relative humidity or something in a basement in that zone, like 55. It's pretty normal. So that's kind of what I dealt with there. So you may be different where you're at. But I'll just say you don't need to worry about jacking the humidity up to a high level in this room. You'll probably have more problems if you do that. So just keep the bag sealed, and that's kind of the gist of it right there. Okay, so we've covered temperature, we've covered lighting, we've covered the humidity aspect. Let's kind of talk about the time frame, different species staying here. Like I said, I'll make specific videos on each individual one talking about that. But typically on these like 10-pound blocks, it takes about 2 weeks or so before we get them fully colonized. Some might take even up to like 3 weeks, but most of the time we're fully colonized in 2 weeks. And like I said, I have some big bags right here, and they'll take a little bit longer to colonize than like a smaller bag. Something like a lion's mane on one of those like 14A 5-pound bags or so, it can be fully colonized in 10 days, really, to tell you the truth. And you could put it in the grow room and get fruits in like really short time period. You're talking like in the 20 days, under 28 days for sure, you could get a fruit from a lion's mane out of like a 5-pound bag. But yeah, so your time frame is going to be different for all your different species. Lion's mane and hericiums are kind of quicker. I'll say kind of like in the realm of oyster mushrooms, the pink oyster, okay? The pink oyster like takes the cake as far as incubation is concerned. And I'll kind of show you guys, I'd like to do like little time trials side by side with some of these different species just so you guys can see, hey, how long does this one take in incubation compared to this one? Your oyster mushrooms, they're going to be around that 2-week mark though, and they're ready to go into your grow room at that point. They'll be fully colonized. King oysters, I kind of let them go about 3-4 weeks. Black pearl king, same thing. Maitake, you're going to want the maitake to form those little brains up in the bag before you even put them in your grow room. Okay, so it's going to take several weeks for the maitake to reach that. It's going to be dependent on that strain you got there, but like 7-8 weeks, something like that. You can stick them in your grow room. Some of them longer. So yeah, it kind of depends on different things. I want to say when in this incubation area too, you could also have in vitro fruiting bags growing. So if you're growing anything in vitro, where you're just trying to get the fruit to produce in here, like reishi or anything like that, you can totally stick them right in here. And I do it all the time. I have no issues with it. Everything works great. It works great for in vitro fruiting. I actually have some spawn bags in the back there as well too. So I have some of my spawn colonizing in here in the incubation room too. So you can use this room for like many different purposes. I want to say like one thing, like I was talking, I always kind of make rounds walking back and forth in this room. During the incubation phase, another thing I'm always looking for is contamination, okay? Or just the speed of growth of the mycelium. So I'm always kind of looking at these things, and I'm just kind of seeing like, hey, how far along are these blocks? Is the mycelium like blasting off from that grain spawn at the right time? And these will be things you'll learn over the years and just with experience. But you can kind of see if things are slowing, if things are going slow in here, that's not good. You need to figure out what's going on. Maybe you got a temperature problem, or maybe you got a problem with your spawn, or something like that. Another thing too, like I said, contamination. Always be scanning your blocks for contamination at all phases. And then if you get one that is contaminated, to what degree is it contaminated? And we'll talk about videos like that in the future. Some people will say, hey, get it out of your grow immediately, and it's context to the whole thing. I've had some, if there's like a little piece of trichoderma or something on one corner, you could totally still take that bag, put it in your grow room, and then cut the other side of it, and still get a mushroom out of it. That way you're gonna get some money, make a little profit from that. It's not gonna contaminate the mushroom at all, okay? So we'll talk about that in other videos, but contamination is just something that I always look for in the incubation phase, and it's always to what degree is it? If the bag is completely contaminated or there's a large amount, I definitely do get them out of there in a situation like that, and it goes straight to the compost pile. Now, another thing that we need to be aware of kind of in this incubation phase is when is it ready, okay? And like I said, I'll have videos on species-specific videos, when is it ready. But typically when the block is fully colonized, you can tell by looks, you will see that the mycelium is like kind of fully encased it. Things like lion's mane, then, they're ready to go into grow room. You can also tell by feel. They get like a more firmness to the block when it's fully colonized. You'll definitely notice that. Your lion's mane, your like blue oyster, pink oyster, gold oyster, all those are like ready to go into the grow room at that point. It's going to be like your king oysters, your maitakes, your black pearl kings, chestnuts, enokis, different rishis, different things like that. People have different like in vitro growing techniques for. Those are going to be the ones that it's going to kind of be like, it depends. Okay, so there's a lot of that with mycology, but hey, it is what it is. But I feel like that was kind of it for like the basics of the incubation phase. I think I covered a lot of parameters and aspects of that. And if you guys have any questions on the incubation phase, put it down in the comment section below, and I will be sure to address it. I just did the subscriber giveaway video recently. I want to say too, some of you even left questions down in the comment section. I will get to those. I've just been enjoying the farm here recently, to tell you the truth. Been applying to lots of different farmers markets, getting things, everything like as far as the business side of this equation, and the paperwork, getting all that ironed out. But I've really just been enjoying the farm. So like if you guys have been wondering like, hey, why hasn't Mike been posting as much? I'm just like, enjoying life, man. Basically, not having the farm for a little over a year, and I've just been building it. It's kind of like I feel like when you get when you're a kid, you got a new toy, you just want to play with it. That's like exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm just like playing. I'm constantly thinking about making spawn bags or whatever, or cultures or anything like that. It's like mushrooms, there's like so many different things you can do. So right now I am just running around here constantly having fun doing stuff. I'm going to try to get more consistent with the videos, but I'm just enjoying the whole process right now, guys. But like I said, if you have any questions on anything, put it in the comment section below. There's lots more videos to come. Hopefully you guys all found this helpful and informative. If you did, please drop this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But that's all I got for you on this one, and I will catch you guys on the next one.